So today, basically, I want to kind of like, point out some of the things that really troubled me, all right, about how Buddhism declined in India. And some of these things we can actually see today, that's happening in our own Buddhist community. So if you look back the lessons of history, we can learn a lot from it. And I think it's important to kind of like, understand why it happened. In the land of its birth, Buddhism got wiped out, literally wiped out, okay? If you go to India today, we see Buddha images everywhere, but it is placed in very, very unsavory places like massage parlors, prostitute dens, and they call it wellness center. All right. So it's very, very sad to see Buddhism and the image of Buddha being displayed in such a situation. Why it has become like that? How come? At one point, it was, the number one religion in the whole of India during Ashoka time. So this lesson is basically kind of like give a quick rundown of the points and some of the issues how Buddhism in India declined, and then later on demise entirely from the Indian subcontinent. Okay, so without delay, I'll just continue. So as you all know, Buddhism originated in India, but by the 12th century AD, it was no more, wiped out. Okay, and it was replaced by Hinduism. It was not a singular event. That means that there's no singular cause to it. It was a century-long process with many, many factors. And it's kind of like, a little bit by little bit chipping away. And after a while, it's gone. So the key points to remember in this sharing is that what are the external and internal forces that led Buddhism to demise? These external and internal forces were very strong. Okay, Buddhism could not have a defense to stop them. Another key point is that our own philosophical and religious dogma. Why is it that we cannot defend our religion? Is it because of our philosophy? One key example is the first precept: we are asked to abstain from killing. So if people are killing us, what do? We don't kill back, So this is a key philosophical point, a religious dogma. Thirdly, I believe it's a structural weakness of Buddhist organizations during India's time and the monastics itself. When temples become more and more rich, they tend to become, lax and complacent. And so this is one of the key areas that we should be aware of. And most important thing, all these things that we share today, some of it we are already seeing in our own Buddhist situation today. Okay, so we must remember these lessons so that we avoid repeating them. Because if we fail to stop these failures, we are guaranteed to go down this path as well. Okay, guaranteed. So let's start off with all these external, internal forces. Before that, I want to just kind of like list out three broad factors. Why Buddhism in India became disintegrated after the height it achieved during the Ashoka time. Ashoka's empire in the 3rd century before Christ, before Christian era, was, I think, the peak of Indian unity. Okay, so what you see in India today was the result of British India combining all the regions into one. India was never a unitary country. India was a kind of mix and match of many regional dynasties. Okay, so during Ashoka, that time, they managed to kind of unite all these provinces and all these regions into one. So he was basically the first united India ruler before British India came. After Ashoka passed away, right? Within 50 years, all these regions started to pull away. They call it the regionalization of India. Okay, especially during the Gupta Empire, after the Maurya Empire of Ashoka, around 650 century Christian era, the Indians region became pulling away from the center. Okay, so when you do not have a united center as big as Ashoka Empire, and you have all these many small centers, so the patronage of Buddhism became much less. All right, so when you have less patronage, what happened? You have got less donation. And when you lose out all these patronage and donation, where did it go to? It goes to the other competing religion. During that time, it is called the Hindu Brahminism. Okay, so when you lose out, somebody gain. That's the sum game of all this patronage. After the the regionalization of India, when you have small empires, placed all over the country, the whole area became weak. Okay, so it was susceptible to invasions of foreign attackers. So most of these attackers attacked India from the north. So you have the Huns, the White Huns, the Muslim Turkic Mongolians, the Arabs, and the Persian. All right. So most of these came in from the north and then destroyed many Buddhist institutions such as Nalanda. And of course, they really make the monks suffer. For some reason, all these invaders attack Buddhism. They do not attack the Jains. They do not attack the Hindus, but they attack Buddhism. Because Buddhist teachings are closest to Islam in terms of social justice. Okay, you must understand that the Brahmins they had their caste system. They had the caste system where you have the ruling warriors. Then you have the Brahmins, and then you have the workers, and then you have these merchants. Okay, so you have this caste system. If you're born in that certain caste, you cannot go out of it. Right? So Buddha was against this caste system. All right, and because Buddha fought for equality, he had one major enemy, which was the Brahmins, because once Buddhism did not have the royal patronage, the Brahmins took over and then they seek revenge. So Brahmins on one side, and then you have the Muslims on the other side. So you had the invasions, and that really went after the Buddhists. Okay. So I already mentioned about this religious competition. Okay, first with Hinduism and then with Islam. So we had a lot of so-called enemies, I would say. Okay, enemies, and we were not equipped at all to fight them, not at all. So we have to be careful and be more wise in the sense, and understand all these factors where we were weak and how we can avoid being so weak right now. Before we go into the decline, I'll quickly run down about the growth of Buddhism. Okay, so Buddhism expanded in the Indian subcontinent very rapidly after the Buddha's death. Okay, because of royal patronage. To a peak, during the Maurya Empire under Ashoka in the 3rd century before Christian era, which is basically about 200 to 300 years after the Buddha passed away. Okay, so around this time it was a peak because under Ashoka, Indian subcontinent became one unitary unit, right? From this Maurya Empire, okay, Ashoka went and spread Buddhism throughout the whole country, because he said he wanted to build about 80,000 stupas. Okay, each of these stupas that contains a bit of the Buddha's ash. And then he wants to make Buddhism the religion of the land. Okay, so when he spread Buddhism to all parts of India, the neighboring countries also began to be influenced, right? So from India, it went up north to the Silk Road by land, and then it spread into Central Asia and then towards China. I will show you the map after all this spread, okay? Buddhism was very lucky. During Ashoka time, the economy was growing very rapidly, okay? Because of the metal industry. When you have a very big army, a very successful army, what you need? You need a lot of arms, okay? You need a lot of sword, a lot of axes and all. And how to make all these axes and sword? You need steel. So the skilled worker during that time were the blacksmith, the people who make the steel, and to make knives and swords and axes. And when you have a lot of these skilled workers, then they make a lot of money, okay? So a lot of money means a lot of opportunity for growth. So many urban centers became a rose during Ashoka's time. And also more importantly, he centralized all political decision making from Pataliputra. Pataliputra is the capital of the Maurya Empire. Okay, so imagine it's like New Delhi today, all right? It's a capital of India, and India is such a big country. So during that time, Pataliputra was the capital of Indian subcontinent, and every control came from there. So it was very centralized, together with the growing economy. So you can imagine how powerful that country was during that time. It is equivalent to the United States or China of today, okay? The Indian subcontinent during the Ashoka time. And then when you spread Buddhism across all the whole of India, they call it the satellite states, okay? Satellite states around the region, just the neighbors of Indian subcontinent, such as the Kushan and all the Bactria and all these places, they also became Buddhist, all right? Because they see, wow, Ashoka is so powerful, we want to replicate. And what religion did he follow? Buddhism. Okay, we also follow. So, success begets success, I would say, okay? Because Buddhism grew at a time of economic growth. You must realize this, So when other states see the economic growth of India was so good, and they attribute part of it to Buddhism, they became Buddhists themselves. All right. So this is how Buddhism grew in that region during that time. And then when you have a consolidated power at the center, all right, they can allocate a lot of resources to whoever they want. Okay. So since Buddhism was the religion of the empire, many of the monasteries and Buddhist organizations got a lot of support from all this, from the kings and the rich patrons, all right? And when you get a lot of support, you can build big temples, big Buddhist centers such as the Sanchi and Amaravati, all right? And Buddhism became the center of religious and intellectual life in India. Because when you have a big center, everybody go there. Everybody learn, everybody support, the monks also give back. Okay, so that's how active and how prosperous Buddhism was during Ashoka's time. So this is the Ashoka's map. This is how he grew. All right, from Pataliputra, the center of his power, he spread towards up north to Gandhara and to all the Hellenistic kingdom, which are run by the Greeks. And then he sent his son Mahinda to Sri Lanka. Okay, and that's where Buddhism first came to Sri Lanka. He also sent missionaries to Suvarnabhumi. Suvarnabhumi, today it is called Myanmar, right? So he sent missionaries to Myanmar, who landed in Myanmar. But during that time, there was no Myanmar lah. There was just Suvarnabhumi. Suvarnabhumi can consider to be include Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Okay. Later on, the Khmer Empire and the Lao Empire, who was also Hindu, all right, and became Buddhist later, is what call this is due to the rise of Ashoka. So okay, we are thankful for Theravada Buddhism because of Ashoka, because when he sent his son Mahinda to Sri Lanka, okay, they brought with them the Theravada version of Buddhism. Okay, Ashoka supported Theravada Buddhism. He did not support the esoteric type, the Mahayana type. He supported the Theravada one. Okay, because his key advisor, Mogali Puttatissa, all right, was they call it one of the elders. The elders they basically try to follow the original teachings of the Buddha. Okay, and many of these teachings were recited in Pali lah. Okay, and I will also share with you how the Brahmins later attacked Pali, destroyed Pali, so that the original Buddhists do not have a means to carry on, what call this, bringing forward the Buddhist teachings, because without Pali, you have to use alternative language, which is Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is a language of Hinduism. Okay, and that's one of the key reasons why Buddhism got erased from India. From Maurya Empire, Buddhism spread out of India, okay, towards the whole of Asia. And this is generally how it got traveled. So from the heartland of Buddhism, okay, in India, the bright orange, small little bright orange area, it went up north, okay, to Central Asia, and then towards China. The red lines are Mahayana. The blue lines are, what call this, the Vajrayana, okay? The green lines are Theravada. So majority of the Buddhism that we find, very common all over the world is actually Mahayana and Vajrayana, all right? Theravada only confined to Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka, okay? So the Theravada Buddhism that we are practicing now is the link directly to Ananda, directly to Ashoka, who helped preserve it, okay? And they were the custodian of the Buddha's original teaching. Okay, without Ashoka and his son Mahinda, who went to Sri Lanka, and without the emissary to Suvarnabhumi in Burma, I think today we don't have Theravada. It will be totally wiped out together with the demise of Buddhism in India. So fortunately, we have that, okay? And also, you can say fortunately also lah, all right? But in some way, a bit distorted, is the growth of Mahayana and Vajrayana. It became even more popular elsewhere. Without them, today, the world don't have Buddhism anymore. You must understand, during the Buddha's time, there was a competing religion called Jain, Jain, Jainism, all right? Founded by the founder called Mahavira. So Jainism and Buddhism were almost similar. They had they were more for social justice, and they were against the the Hindus, Vedas, and Hindu gods basically lah. We're talking about self-cultivation, meditation to get out of wrongs of suffering. The Jains and the Buddha almost touch similar doctrines. The difference between the Buddha and this Mahavira is that Buddha was against the caste system. Mahavira was not against the caste system. Okay, and that is one of the reasons why the Brahmins was so angry with the Buddhist teachings. So when they gained back power, they attacked Buddhism, but they left the Jains alone. Till today, there are many Jain temples in India with many followers. But Buddhism, you hardly find. You have now the new generation of Buddhists called Dalits, all right, and some Buddhists, but generally, they're very, very few comparative to their population. Okay, so now we have seen that how Buddhism grew. Let's see how it got destroyed. All right. Now, the first thing is socio-political change. After the Maurya Empire was the last centralized ruler of Indian subcontinent before British India. Okay, so imagine the whole India was under one king, and the last time it happened was under Ashoka. Okay, the Maurya Empire. Now you see, it is one country, but it was united under British rule. So the last time it happened was under Ashoka, about 300 before Christian era. Okay, about 200 to 300 years after the death of Buddha, India was united. And during this unity of India, Buddhism was at its height in the Indian subcontinent. After the Maurya Empire collapsed, all right, and then it was taken over by the Gupta Empire around 320 to 650 Christian era. During the Gupta Empire, India was no longer a centralized, united political unit. Okay, it's no more centralized. It became regionalized. Everybody started pulling away. Okay, so Bihar became one empire, Maharashtra became one empire, Andhra Pradesh another empire, and so forth. Okay, so when you lose the centralization, you tend to lose patronage and donation as well. Okay, so instead of going to one source to get your donation, you have to look for many sources, right? And these many sources have their own interests, and therefore there was this huge loss. So it's not so good to put everything in one basket, okay? Because once that basket breaks, where are you going to find your income, correct? And then once you have a lot of all these smaller empire, okay, you must have a ruler for each of these empires, isn't it? So the ruling class of each of these little empires became more and more greedy, I would say, and also their own preference. And many of them do not want to have Buddhism as their key religion, simply because Buddhism was against the caste system. And many of these ruling class want the caste system because they are the top of the pyramid, okay? So what they do? They work together with the Brahmin class, who are the religious priests, okay? So they work together in cahoot with the priests to increase their influence in social political process. So the Kshatriya basically say, oh, this Buddha, terrible, he made a mess of our social structure. Now let's go back before Buddha's time. And then when they appointed the Brahmin class to be their advisors, okay, the Brahmin class, of course, now got back their job, and with job, they got their income, okay. And once they got it back, they don't want to release anymore. So the only way to make sure that their influence is consolidated, they decided, okay, let's kill off Buddhism once and for all. Take out all the roots, not just kill them off, just pull out the roots as well. So I will show you later on how Buddhism was decimated in that way. Okay. So when you don't have the ruling class supporting you, okay, the Buddhist monasteries became less supported, and the symbiosis between the community became more and more loosened. Right. So imagine you have a big temple. You don't have to worry about donation from the working people because you got paid by the ruling class. Okay, imagine here we have the king supporting our Buddhist temple. Every year give the temple millions. So this temple become what? Become complacent. They say if don't have support from lay people, never mind the king support. Right? So when you get free money like that, all you do is become complacent, and then you just enjoy the beautiful temple without doing any work for the community. Okay, they don't go on pindapat. They don't have dispense the Buddha teachings. They do not have classes anymore. And so, the symbiosis between the lay people and the monastics become less and less. But once the king says, okay, sorry, I'm going to stop giving you all money, all right, and channel all the money to the Hindu temples. So what happens now? They want to go back to the lay people for donation. The lay people say, when you are rich, you don't care us. Now why will you care them, And then because of competing religious activity, most of the lay people go to the Hindu temples. Okay, so this is one of the things. Now I'm going to the competition now, religious competition. So we have all these political change, the key structures of the Indian Empire. Key changes in these structures led to the loss of royal patronage to Buddhist temples. Okay, and this is one big factor why they became weak. Once they became weak, the Brahmins took over and strengthened Hinduism. Okay, and the Hindu temples became more and more strong. And then they were more clever. They engaged the lay people. And then what happened is that the Buddhist temples start to lose followers to the Hindu temples. Now, this is the beginning of the so-called religious competition. Okay, let's quickly go through. The disintegration of central power, the regionalization of all these small empires, led to religious rivalries. And you must understand, kings during those days adopt a specific religion for their own purpose. Okay, so some can become favor Hinduism, some favor Jainism, for instance. Some favor another one called Shaivism. Okay, there are many religions in India. It's not just Hinduism. Many. So the king will work with certain religious group and consolidate their power. As you all know, religion is a kind of opium of the masses, like Karl Marx says, okay, it's an opium of the masses. If you cannot control people by force, okay, for example, using army, the next thing that you can use is actually religion. Today, of course, the next thing that you can control people is called money, all right, capitalist system. But those days, there are only two, either army or religion. Okay, so religion is very important to the king because it can help them to control society, make them orderly according to their wishes. All right. So Hinduism, along with Shaivism, Vaishnavism, Bhakti, Tantra, Jainism, and Buddhism competed with each other to get followers. Once the regions became an empire by themselves. Okay. Take a note of this word here, Bhakti. Bhakti is a Hindu invention, okay, whereby instead of competing with other religion, they incorporate everybody inside. All right. So the Bhakti movement created what is called the modern Hinduism. They incorporated everybody under one umbrella. Okay. They call it the inclusive doctrine. Inclusive doctrine. Because religion, God is one. All religions should be under one God. Okay. But the God can be different. So the Bhakti movement was very clever. They incorporated everything in. Later on, Buddhism also became one of them, their prophet, okay, one of their deity. And the Bhakti movement, they later evolved to become the Hinduism that we know of today. Okay. So the new dynasties, which rose after the 7th and 8th centuries, tended to support Hinduism. Okay. Simply because by that time, the Buddhism was already in deep decline, so it's not so much of a competition for other religion. All right. Now the Brahmins were very smart, street smart, I would say. Okay, they were not only priests, they were able to give help in local administration. They provided counselors, administrators, and clerical staff. They know to run an administration, you need all these soft skill, okay? Administrative skill, they call it administrative skill. Very clever. And then they had a clear idea about society, and the law and statecraft. So they study the texts such as the Arthashastra and the Manusmriti. They actually learn about how society works. They help the royalties draft law and then come up with policies and objectives. Okay, and because of that, the skill, administrative skill they possess, and all this knowledge about society, okay, in general, the ruling class employed them as advisors. So most of the new smaller empires after the Gupta Empire, all right, were run by the ruling class, which are the Kshatriya, and the religious class, which are the Brahmins. They work in cahoot to strengthen their hold on the administration of their particular state. Okay, once you have these powerful, elements, running the administration, where the Buddhist monk got place to stand, correct or not? No way the Buddhist monk have a place to stand, because the Buddhist monks are only interested in their own monastery, where they are interested in all politics. We talk about monks nowadays, they're not interested in politics. They ask them to give comment on politics, they say, oh, these are all for the lay people. We monks only focus on Buddha teaching, all right, and personal salvation. But the Brahmins were not. Brahmins were involved in running the country. Okay. At the same time, they dispense holy water, they do rites, they became priests, and then they make sure the lay people don't understand what they do. So the lay people keep on coming to them, all right, for all the blessings and all. Okay. So in that sense, they had a hold on the lay people, and the Kshatriya make use of them, right? So that they, the ruling class, yes, can be seen to be close to the grassroots. All right, this is how the structure of Brahminism became the take root in India after Ashoka. All right. Buddhist institutions, on the other hand, tend to be less involved in politics. They're not interested at all. They're only interested in their own temples. Okay. Where else the Hindu Brahmins provided numerous service for the royalty. So you can see if you are the king during that time, who will you support? Buddhist monk or the Hindu Brahmins? Okay. So at the end of the day, you only support those who you think you can benefit from. Correct or not? So Buddhist institutions did not play that role. Hindu Brahmins played that role, and therefore they got the favor of the ruling class. And then the Brahmins, of course, as I said earlier, they did not intend the lay people to have knowledge about the Brahmanism. Okay, Brahmanism knowledge is only exclusive to Brahmins, and then they were able to use this knowledge and then come up with blessings. I would call it blessings, but actually, they created a lot of these incantations and spells, mantras. All right, and they do a lot of blessing, holy water and things like that. And they also go into areas of astronomy, astrology, calendar, divinations and all this kind of thing. All these pseudosciences were rejected by the Buddhist monks. Okay, but the Brahmins indulged in it, and the Brahmins promoted these things to the lay people. And the lay people, being ignorant, accepted them because they think the Brahmins have power because they do these things. Okay, the monks don't do it, the Brahmins do it. And when they are seen as powerful, everybody go there. Okay, everybody go there. So it is kind of like, all interconnected and how ignorance foster more ignorance. And this ignorance, build a system that is self-sustainable, where else the Buddhists lose out in that sense. Okay, just now I talked about religious competition. Okay, this is between the religious competition in India only. Okay, now after that we have this decline due to religious persecution. Religious persecution happened two levels. Okay, one is, I call it the revenge of the Brahmins. During the Ashoka time, the Brahmins were being suppressed very badly by Ashoka. Okay, And after Ashoka passed away, and after the Gupta, the disintegration of the Gupta Empire, they become smaller empires by themselves. The Brahmins rose up and they decided to take revenge on Buddhism. Okay. The second point, second part of the religious persecution, which I will not talk a lot, is the slaughter by Huns and Muslims. Now, these were what call this invaders. They came from the north and basically trash everything that's Buddhism. Okay, so I start with the first one first, the revenge of the Brahmins. Okay, now the Brahmins object to Buddhism's concept of equality because the Buddha was against the caste system. Brahminism thrives on the caste system because the Brahmins are the so-called the chosen one. Okay, if you are born in a Brahmin family, all your future generations are Brahmins. You cannot go further below than them. If you are ruling class, the Kshatriya, you will always be the Kshatriya. If you are the merchant, you'll always be the merchant. If you are the working class, you'll always be the working class. Okay. Buddha was against all this. Buddha said, you are not, your caste is not determined by birth. Your caste is determined by your deeds. Okay, your karma. So with just that one sentence, it went against the grain of society during that time. All right. So imagine, a working class suddenly can become a monk. Can you imagine that? Previously, it was not even possible to think a working class person can become a monk, a priest. Okay. But during Buddha's time, you have one monk, two monks, okay, side by side. One could have been a Brahmin and one could have been a working class. All right. But if they develop their mind, diligently, both can be attained the same level of a Sotapanna, for instance. Okay. So in Brahminism, it was not possible. In Buddha, it was possible. And that is how, Buddhism rose quite rapidly because the working class and the merchants, first time in their life, realize, oh, I'm not, shackled by the caste by birth system. We only shackled by our thoughts and deeds. All right. So in order to elevate ourselves, we just have to follow the Buddha's teaching and then take care of our thoughts and deeds. Forget about birth. Birth is not in the equation at all. Right. So this whole idea of a casteless society was against the Brahminism, and the original teachings of Brahminism in India. It was very, very revolutionary and very, very transformation. Okay. So in terms of social justice, Buddha is one of the great proponent of social justice in the world, in that sense. It was very difficult to go against this system, but he did it, and it lasted until Ashoka's time. Okay. So when Buddhism weakened after Ashoka, the Brahmins rose and says, oh, okay, I think we have to exterminate Buddhism and strengthen the caste system. The first thing they thought was how to bring back the caste system. Right? They don't care about, revival of the Brahmanism teachings. The first thing they say is how to bring back the caste system. The first thing they did by killing Buddhism was a kill of Pali. Now, many of you ask, he says, hey, Pali is the language of Buddhism. How come it's not spoken in India? Okay, because of this Brahmins, they literally destroyed, kill off Pali. Don't want people to use it. Okay, and it was a very powerful move because Pali was holding the original teachings of Buddha. We're not talking Mahayana, we're not talking about Vajrayana. We're talking about the original Buddha's teaching, the oral tradition, as preserved in the Pali canon, okay, the Tipitaka. So if you take up Tipitaka book and you see a lot of repetition, because they wrote down what was said, okay. Thus have I said was mentioned by Ananda because he always followed Buddha. And then after that, he just repeated what Buddha said. And so many of the verses are repeated. Only one or two words are changed. When you record teachings like this, it means it was a word-by-word recording of how the Buddha said. It seldom go wrong because you just write down by memory. Okay. And the language which they used to preserve this writing was Pali. So imagine if you kill off Pali, what happened? Original Buddha's teaching also gone. Very clever, isn't it? Okay, so the Brahmins were very clever. Attack the root of the Buddhist teaching, which is Pali. Kill that off, and you kill off Buddhism. Now, during Ashoka time, he followed Buddha's teaching very, very closely, all right? And he was not a fan of rituals. You know, Hinduism got a lot of rituals, isn't it? You got this ritual, that ritual. Everything got ritual. This ritual related to this god, to that god, and things like that. So Ashoka said, wow, this nonsense, okay? So in the edict, one of the pillar edict, he forbade, family rituals. And many of these rituals are run by women, okay? So he gave a specific instruction in one of the edict, the pillars of Ashoka, that forbade the women from carrying out rituals, okay? And one of the important rituals during that time, and even until today, is called the Kula Puja. Kula Puja is where you pray to the gods to make sure that the family is happy, have no problems. It's more like family blessing. The wife or the mothers of the family usually conduct this, prepare this puja, okay? But they cannot do it. They usually bring the Brahmin priest to come to the house and then do this puja. Now, so when Ashoka forbade the women to prepare these rituals, it cuts off an income stream from the Brahmins, So imagine all the Brahmins suddenly overnight no income, okay? Because they cannot do this puja, right? So they were very angry, very angry. So after Ashoka passed away, the Brahmins pledged revenge because they said, how can, the king so cruel take away our income, okay? So this is another key thing. So apart from the caste system, they want to bring back their income. They want to reinstitute back Kali Puja, Kula Puja, and also the other pujas, they were forbid to give up, right? And another tactic used by the Brahmins is to subvert certain Buddhist phrases to become demeaning terms. Okay, now they turn the table on Buddha because during Buddha's time, he used Brahmin's term and then give Buddhist meaning to it. So example, karma, okay? Karma, according to the Veda teaching, is that if you are born a Brahmin, you'll always be a Brahmin. If you're born a merchant, you'll always be a merchant. You're born a worker, you'll always be a worker. You cannot go, across the levels. So for instance, if you're born a worker, you cannot be a Brahmin because the gods already predetermine your life, your fate, forever, not only now, forever. After many reincarnations, you're still a Brahmin or a worker. So luck is depend on your birth. So the Buddha was like, nonsense. Karma is about deeds and thoughts. Okay? The effect, it depends on your actions and your thoughts. So he says, but then he still used the word karma. Okay? The word karma. He did not change, he did not use a new term. He used back the old karma, the Hindu karma, but then give it a new meaning. So there were many Buddhist terms, okay, that the Buddha applied, but with a different meaning. For instance, Mangala. Mangala to the Buddha is called blessing, okay? But the Hindu term for Mangala is some good luck charm, some superstitious good luck charm. But the Buddha turned it into become a blessing. And we have the 36 blessings in the Mangala Sutta, all right? So now the tables have turned. The Brahmins, when the Buddhism was weak, the Brahmins took over some of the Buddhist term and then give it different meaning. So after Buddha passed away, one of the things he said was that you cannot build an image of me, all right? But you can visit places where the Buddha have done, where the Buddha was present. So one of the holy places was Kusinara, when the Buddha passed away. So after Buddha passing away, many people go to Kusinara for pilgrimage, every year. All right. When the Buddhists became weak, the Hindus took over and then subverted the meaning of Kusinara. Anyone who goes to Kusinara for pilgrimage is called a haramba, because that person will go to hell. But if you go to pilgrimage in Kasi, which is today's Varanasi, where the Shiva is, the Hindu god is, you can go to heaven. So after a while, nobody go to Kusinara anymore, and everybody went to Kasi. Okay, so this is how the Brahmins subverted some of the Buddhist terms to become demeaning phrases. All right. If you touch a Buddhist monk or when you enter a Buddhist temple, you must be purified by a shower, by bath. Okay. So it was so bad, up to a point, the Brahmin said, anyone, even if you see a monk coming towards you, the moment you see the monk, go have a holy shower. Okay. And if the monk walk that path, let's say you walk that path, and suddenly you follow from behind. Okay, you cannot walk behind the monk. You must walk another different path, because the path give you bad luck. Up to that point, the Brahmins, they do this to the monks and the Buddhists. Then we have this guy called Mihirakula, a Huna chief. Is one of the key prosecutors of Buddhism. All right, he burned down 1,600 stupas, viharas, and monasteries, killed many lay Buddhists. So this is the height of Brahmin revenge, this Mihirakula guy. Okay, so he killed many of the destroyed many Buddhist temples. And then later on, those people who were in poverty, okay, and then they had no work, the Brahmins brand them as untouchables, outcasts. Okay, outcast is out of these four castes that I mentioned just now: the ruling class, the Brahmins, the merchant, and the workers. Okay, the outcasts or the untouchables were out of these four caste system, or these four classes of people. Okay, these are outside of the caste. If anyone touches them, you become unclean. Then you have to go for a holy shower. Okay, right? And unfortunately, many of these outcasts were Buddhists of yesterday. They were Buddhists of yesterday. They remember some of their teaching called Adi Dhamma. Adi Dhamma is something to do with, some old teaching, ancient teaching. They don't know. They forget that it's Buddha's teaching already. So today, if you go to India, you have to call it Dalits. You see all these Dalits. They are called the untouchables also. And many Dalits became Buddhists. Okay, thanks to this Ambika, one of the minister during the Buddha's independence from the British. He says, all Dalits now, please convert to Buddhism, all right, and claim back your original teaching, original religion. So imagine, if you see an untouchable, okay, a Dalit, their forefathers were original Buddhists. They are basically the carrier, the generation that had Buddhist seeds in them originally. Okay, so do not look down on them. They were actually Buddhists once. So decline number 2, the slaughter by the Huns. I will not talk much about it, because this is a phase of history where invaders came to India and basically kill every Buddhist. But the one thing they burned down significantly was the Nalanda library at the Nalanda monastery. This library was contained one of the most important teachings of Buddhism, although many of these writings are in the Mahayana or Vajrayana. Nevertheless, many of these Buddhist teachings were stored there, and it was burned down. And so today we have lost a lot of things. We don't know what was written in the library. Okay, some were stolen, smuggled out, and some of these texts are now stored in Tibet. Okay, unfortunately, communist China took over Tibet, and some of these texts stored in Tibetan monastery are also brought into Beijing now. So we don't know where these texts are. Okay, we don't know. But the contributors of these Muslims and Huns is that whatever the Brahmins did to the monks, the Huns and Muslims came and wiped everything clean. Okay, so they're the last of the invaders. They literally destroyed Buddhism. So the Brahmins destroyed the structure, and then the Muslims came and wiped out clean, you know. Okay, so very quickly, I'll go through the internal failure of our own Buddhist organizations during the Buddhist, the India's time. When you have royal patronage, you get a lot of support, okay? So all the support and donation from the king is focused on monasteries, you know. So in each of the cities, they have very, very big monasteries. And you have a bunch of monks administrating these monasteries. So you have this concentration of Sangha into these large monasteries like Nalanda. Nalanda is not just a monastery, it's like a town, you know, it's very big. It's a small town. It's not just a small, it's not just a big temple. It's like a small town, okay? So when you have a big monastery, your focus is on managing property, correct? Making the property look nice and comfortable. And then you become like a dacer. You become complacent because you have such a luxurious monastery. You must understand, you know, this is India during that time where there is no fancy infrastructure like we have here today. Okay. So if you have a big house, there's only nice things there. Everything else are slums. Okay. You have one big house, and the big house most likely is either a palace or a monastery. Okay. So if you're a king, you live in a palace. You want to live in a luxury elsewhere, you have to become a monk and live in a monastery. So when you become, you know, acclimatized to all this wealth and comfort, you start to neglect your duty towards the community. Okay. So the monastic institution lost day-to-day contact with the laity because number one, because they got a lot of support from the king. They no longer need to go on pindapat. Food is cooked in the kitchen, like our modern monasteries now lah. Our town monks don't go to pindapat anymore, isn't it? They stay in the temple, and the lay people go and cook food for them, and they get free food because the lay people support with dana. Okay, and because the king gave them a lot of money, they became landlord of the temple. Okay, and the bigger the property, the more money they have. And some of these landlord, as landlord, they employ a lot of workers. So the monasteries became employers to many workers. Okay, so the lay community depend on the sustainability of the communities for livelihood. So it becomes a master-servant kind of arrangement already. So the monastery is no longer just a temple, it becomes a employment agency. Then the monks became more and more focused on academic studies and neglected Dharma teaching. Especially Nalanda, okay, if you take Nalanda, they just go there to learn and study. They hardly teach on and become very exclusive. You go into the institution of Nalanda, you see only monks. You don't see lay people. Lay people help to run the monastery, but they're not involved in the academic studies, and they don't get teachings, much teachings also. And I think this is a very glaring weakness of Buddhism lah. If you look at the Buddhist literature, the Sutta Pitaka, you know, most of the suttas are about monastics, you know, about monks, Buddha and the monks. Very little about lay people. You can choose few, you know, suttas that the Buddhas teach directly to lay people. One of it is like Mangala Sutta, okay. Another one is what is the I just lost that name. In the Sutta Nipata, okay, you have a few suttas where the Buddha preached to lay people, but these are very few. There are not many, you know, okay. In fact, there's only one, the Sigalovada Sutta, where they actually dedicated to lay life, and that also not published until the 11th century. You compare the Jains they have 50 texts on the life and conduct of a lay person. The Buddha only have one, Sigalovada Sutta. Okay, so majority are for the monastics. So when the Huns and all the external forces attack Buddhism, lay people don't know how to defend the Buddhism because they leave it to the monks to defend. And the monks say, oh, I only learn Buddhism. I must not kill. So how? Right? So Buddhism as a doctrine, as in the dogma, has a lot of weaknesses in terms of social defense. Okay, we just do not have that social defense to face off all these external threats. And I think very importantly, I think what we are doing now is that we have to address this. We are addressing it right now. Is that during those times we do not have Buddhist customs and rites, for childbirth, marriages, and funerals. So you can imagine all the villages when they have a birth of a child or marriage or funeral. What do they follow? They follow Indian culture. What is Indian culture? Actually, it is Brahminism. Correct or not? Like we Chinese, example, we are Buddhist. Then for childbirth, marriage, and funerals, we follow Chinese custom. But Chinese custom is not religious inclined. Okay, so it's okay, no problem. We can have Chinese culture, Chinese custom, Buddhist religion. But in India, Indian custom is basically Brahminism, which is a religion, So if the Buddha says, we do not have any rituals for childbirth, marriages, and funeral, let the lay people do it themselves. And what do they follow? They follow the old style, the Brahminism style, which is Brahminism. So imagine, if let's say Asoka says, we do away with rituals. You have all these issues, childbirth, marriages, funerals. Now the lay people, who do they follow? Do they create a new Buddhist rituals? Until today, there's never Buddhist rituals, okay, from India with regards to all these social activities. Most of it is still very, very Hindu-based, okay? So the lack of custom, and rights, and also a neglect for lay people is a key issue, and a really serious internal failure of Buddhism. Because without the lay people, where is the defense against all these external threats? All right. So I think we can learn a lot from this. Okay, last one, very quickly. Religious assimilation. Just now I mentioned about bhakti. Remember bhakti? Okay. The Brahminism group called bhakti rose up, quite late, about the 4th or 5th century Christian era. And they say, all religion is one. All God is one. Therefore, all religion is under one umbrella. It's called the Bhakti movement. This Bhakti movement assimilated all religion, including Buddhism, and then it became Hinduism, all right? Now, Buddhism also later on, after the Buddha passing away, there was sectarian split. One was called the teaching of the elders, and one was the heretics, they call it. The heretics became Mahayana, all right? And Mahayana and then grew into Vajrayana. Now, the Mahayana and Vajrayana, they have this thing called Bodhisattva, correct or not? Bodhisattva. And they have this thing called Dhammakaya. They got Bodhkaya, okay, Nimanakaya. So the Buddha, historical Buddha, is not just one Buddha. They call the imaginary Buddha and the future Buddha, okay? So if once you have imaginary Buddha and you have a future Buddha, that means the Buddha, even though physically is gone, this virtual Buddha is ever there, okay? Is ever there together with the Bodhisattvas. So this pantheon of Bodhisattvas and virtual Buddha became known as the Mahayana or the Vajrayana. Now, this structure of Buddhism, they call it absolutism, which means it's there, it's always there one, okay? We human understanding haven't reached that level yet, but it's always there. It's very similar to Hinduism, because Hinduism also got many, many gods one, okay? They got their own pantheon also. So to the lay people, when they see Mahayana Buddhism and Hinduism, to them it's like, same only, what's the difference? And so they got confused, because the Brahmins, as I mentioned earlier, don't want the lay people to know about religion. They just want them to depend on them, so they can earn their living as priests, okay? So when Mahayana and Vajrayana grew, and all the lay Buddhists started to see similarities between Mahayana Buddhism and Hinduism. Then when the Hinduism say, oh, we are all one and together, then they accepted it lah. Since it's almost the same, but okay, they accepted it. Well, it's different between the Theravada. Theravada don't have all this pantheon and all. And so that's why the Brahmins attacked the Theravada, because Theravada is so different from the Mahayana. Okay, so lay people cannot differentiate between esoteric of nature of the Buddha, the Buddhist Tantrism, and Hinduism. So the Brahmins took advantage of this, absorbed Buddhist teachings, and adopted it into Orthodox Hindu thought. Okay, the Buddha became an avatar of Vishnu, right? Because they got all this pantheon, Mahayana got this pantheon. So the Hindu said, since the Buddha is the leader of this pantheon, he is the avatar of Vishnu. And then later on, Buddhism became more Brahmanized because they had to use an alternative text. Since Pali is no more in use, what do they use? They use Sanskrit. Okay. When you write Buddhism in Sanskrit, which is also the language of Brahmanism or Hinduism, what happens? Everything gets mixed up, right? Earlier, I mentioned about the Brahmins adopted some Buddhist texts and phrases and then converted into Hindu meaning, correct? So when you have Sanskrit as your main text to convey Buddhist teaching, and some of these terms are already corrupted, included into the text, when people read, they're even more confused. What is Buddhism and what is Hinduism? Okay, so this assimilation is the final nail in the coffin. They kill off Buddhism. The Hindus were very clever. They use assimilation now as the last effective method to wipe out Buddhism from the face of India. Okay. So the lessons to be learned in this sharing is, number one is that I think it's very important to maintain Sangha lay symbiosis. The Pindapat and Dhamma teaching must continue. We cannot have monks sitting in the temple only enjoying the richness of the monastery or the temple. Okay, we cannot. They must go out and meet the lay people. I think I see a lot of Pindapat now happening in even in KL nowadays before the MCO and all the COVID SOP. I think this is a very healthy development. Temples must not become too rich. Okay, when temples become too rich, they become like a resort, because the monks, as trustees of the temple, they only care about maintaining the temple. All right, because it's a source of income. So the support must come from all levels of society, and not just the rich and powerful. So the rich now replaces the ruling class. So you have a lot of rich people supporting certain sects, certain religious group. And you notice, this group suddenly become very, very prominent because the rich give them a lot of money. Okay, so it should not come from just from the rich and powerful. It should be supported by all levels of society. We must democratize support from every level. I think it is good. We think about employing useful rituals for lay people. I think some monks are very progressive. They have instituted Buddhist rites for funerals, for birthdays, for marriages and things like that. And finally, I think we need to make Buddhist teachings relevant for lay people. The lay people are ignored. Okay, they are not really being given prominence. So the monks continue to teach and the lay people continue to listen. When can lay people be as knowledgeable as monks and then take up the mantle of teaching? Even though lay people may not be monks or nuns, if they're knowledgeable, they should be able to teach, okay, and share the Dhamma knowledge. The more lay Dhamma teachers, the better for all of us, I think. Number one is that I think we are also involved in society's administration. We are bosses of own companies and things like that. So we have some ideas of administration. All right. So when there are problems in society, lay people can be the frontliner, to defend. So let's say, for instance, some of these lay people, they are involved in politics. Okay. Okay, fine. Some people say, oh, politicians, you go and join it, sure, you become dirty. Yes, but let's say if you are a very strong Buddhist, all right, with good moral teachings, they go in and then influence lawmaking, in that sense, right? If you look at the Pakatan Harapan the last time, there were many non-Malays in the administrators, but many of these were Christians. Okay, very, very powerful Christians. And they were able to use their religion to, come up with a lot of laws to kind of like, make sure that the society become more and more level-headed. The Buddhists were never there at all because we don't have enough Buddhist lawmakers. So it has come to a point that we must relook at ourselves. What kind of level we want to play in society. The demise of India, Buddhism in India, shows these weaknesses. We must learn from them. We cannot follow their path anymore. Okay. So I think, okay. So another last part. Followers must never be dogmatic or cult-centric. Okay. We have to apply the teachings, look at the teachings in a holistic sense, and then adapt to our situation. We cannot be saying, oh, I'm strictly Theravada, or I'm strictly Mahayana, or strictly Vajrayana. It doesn't make sense anymore. The moment you break apart religion with with society, it becomes, there's no connection anymore. Once you become disconnected, okay, it is no more a living religion. When external forces come in, we are very weak during that time, okay? So we have to make sure that everything is interrelated. Okay. So thank you for your time. I think I also extended 10 minutes of my sharing. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
All right. Thank you, Brother Kooi Foong, for that sharing session. Yes, if you have any questions that you would like to direct to Brother Kooi Foong about the session just now, please do. I found it really informative, and I've learned a lot, especially on that part where you talked about society, because I think it's personally, because I think Buddhism is more like a peaceful religion and everyone is just probably taking a back seat in proceedings, and I feel that we need to be more proactive when it comes to certain issues and whatnot. And that's what I feel we can learn from this. Okay, yes, we have two questions from the chat right now. Brother Kooi Foong, do you see the similarity in the China Communist Party, CCP, extending and exercising the same method in controlling the practice of Buddhism today in Tibet? Would there be a similar demise of Buddhism in Tibet? And also another, it's a question. Yeah, it's the same question.
Okay, thank you, Sister Bengik. China, unfortunately, is using the same tactic. Okay. Now, what happened is that, if you take if you eat ice cream, okay, ice cream, I would say you take a bowl of ice cream, and then you take your hand, squish the ice cream, all right? All right, you squeeze the ice cream. Yes, you destroy the ice cream, but then all the juices will come out from the edges, correct or not? You squeeze, and then all the thing will come out. It will escape from your hand anyway. So, like religion, if you want to crush it, like the Brahmins crushed Buddhism in India, it oozes out from the sides, and then escape, and then went out all over the world. If the Brahmins did not destroy Buddhism in that sense, did not attack Buddhism in that sense, okay, I do not think it will become a global religion. Because the Muslims, when the Muslims came, attacked the monks, they ran away first to Tibet. Okay, first to Tibet. And then they created a foothold there. So, and then from the persecution, then you have Buddhism springing their roots elsewhere. I believe the China probably do the same thing now. Okay, they are using money, capitalism, and what is socialism to kind of like dilute Tibetan Buddhism. But Tibetan Buddhism today is no longer in China. It is is rooted in India, Dharamsala, okay, the seat of the Dalai Lama. And then you notice that many of these Rinpoche, they're supported by rich people, very powerful people, and some from Hollywood also. And some of these Rinpoche, they are so powerful, their sects have become prominent Buddhist movements are all over the world. Tranggu Rinpoche, okay, Kagu Kama, the school, and then we have one here in PJO town, Tashi Choling, Kama Tashi Choling, okay. All these are supported by very rich people in Malaysia, and I believe because they have such support, their teachings will continue. Buddhism or any religious systems thrive because of good lay support. Okay, so I do not believe they will be gone. Tibet, yes, I think so. Sooner or later, I think they will follow the path of the Buddhism in India, but it will spread all over the world. In fact, I think Tibetan Buddhism will plant a big seed in the West. Okay, so that's how Western Buddhism will come out because of Tibetan Buddhism.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Brother Kooi Foong, for that answer. We have another question from Chiam SA. Why Buddha chose to be born in India against the uphill task of caste system when he could be born in an ancient civilization like China or Middle East? And there's another one from Gina as well. He says, Brother Kooi Foong, I agree on the lack of ritual when it comes to marriage, birth, and death. How is a funeral conducted in Theravada tradition for lay people? What do we do? And who do we call? Totally clueless. Please share. Thank you.
Okay, first question by Brother Chiam. Okay, if you study Mangala Sutta, okay, if you study Mangala Sutta, and there is a commentary, the Buddha is born in a middle country, right? Middle country. What is the middle country? So I was looking through this commentary. The middle country is, according to the Buddhist commentaries, is located in the Ganges Valley, where the Indus civilization first appeared. Now, the Indus civilization apparently is called the cradle of Indian civilization. That's where all the sects and all the religious groups were developed. Okay. Now, the Buddha says before he came down from Tusita heaven, all right, he contemplated where to land on earth, okay, to become the enlightened one. So apparently, all Buddhas, not only this current Sakyamuni Buddha, previous Buddhas, all the 7 previous Buddhas, they all were born in this middle country. Now, of course, the text being an Indian religious text, I'm sure this is my personal opinion. They define the middle country as someone that is fertile in civilization. They did not say whether it's in Ganges or not. But because it's an Indian prince, they decided this middle country is the Ganges Valley, okay, where the Hindu civilization appeared. Now, Brother Chiam's question is very relevant because China called itself a middle country also. Okay, Zhongguo is also middle on the whole world. The Buddhist civilization appeared in the middle country, but that one is in India. And yet, one of the major Abrahamic faith religions are all from the Middle East. And again, it's called middle. Okay. So all these middle countries, middle areas or middle region consider themselves to be the center of the world or the center of the universe. Okay. So I foresee it is just more or less like sectarian views, I would say, when you talk about location. It's more sectarian views. Now, the Buddha also was very, beside that point, I think one of the reasons why he chose this area to give birth to Buddhism, perhaps he saw, Buddhism can become a world religion. Hinduism is never a world religion, but Buddhism is. Okay, Buddhism is. So perhaps he made the right choice. He got it there, the local population did not accept it, but because of the persecution, it went out of India and became a world religion. So we benefit. It's not a loss, less loss to India, but not a loss to the world. Okay. And in fact, if we implement Buddhist teachings properly all over the world, I think it's in fact a benefit for all of mankind, not just Hindus. Okay. So I hope I answer your question, that one. Second one, from Gina E, is it?
Yep.
Gina E. Yeah. You want to read the question? That one?
Okay, I'll just read it again. So, Brother Kooi Foong, I agree on the lack of ritual when it comes to marriage, birth, and death. How is a funeral conducted in Theravada tradition for lay people? What do we do?
Okay, there is a group. I think they only handle Buddhist funerals in the Theravada tradition. I forgot the name of the group. I think Brother Chiam may be able to give the link here. I will work on this. If possible, I will find out from internet and then send to you all. Okay, and then I can forward the link to you all. So what happened is that this group only handles Theravada tradition for funerals. Okay, so let's say for instance someone passed away, all you have to do is call up this group. They arrange everything for you. They arrange the funeral parlor. They arrange the monks for chanting. Okay, and then they give you all the checklist for what to do. All you do is make one call and they do everything for you. So I think we do not need to talk more about this. If you need more information, just call this group. I think it's Malaysian Buddhist. I don't know. I forgot already. I need to find out the link and give it to you. Or maybe you can check out Sister Gina. Just type on Google Theravada Buddhist Funeral Malaysia, like that. Okay, I'm sure you can see the organization.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Brother Kooi Foong, for your time. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for the questions.